Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here, coming at you from the Knife Center, and it's our favorite time of the week because cool new knives hit our shelves every day of the week, and I've got the coolest of the last week right here in front of me. So let's check them out. All right, a couple things to remind folks of here right at the front. For any of these items, you will be able to find links in the description. And if there's any bit of information I forget to mention as we're going through, all the specs, pricing, everything else is of course available on those links that take you to KnifeCenter.com. We've also added a Sezzle payment option to the site very recently, so you can use that to stretch into some slightly higher priced stuff if you want to break it into payments. And last but not least, new promo item launching today. If you spend $1.99 or more on the site, you can get this right here by entering the promo code, which I don't know what it is at the time we're filming this, but it will be also listed in the description below. The CRKT Minimalist Cleaver with orange G10 handles and a D2 blade can be yours with a purchase of $1.99 or more and that promo code. It's a really cool knife, D2 blade, just over 2 inches long, that cleaver shape of course, and the famous minimalist handles, which while small are very, locked in when you grab it. You can also get your hands on these if you just want the knife. They're about 30 bucks on the site right now. You can check that out as well. On to the new knives, however. Well, I say new, but actually the first knife is a restock of something that we had a few years ago, our Spyderco Shaman exclusive, and they went pretty quickly the last time. I think we sold them all within the first day that they dropped. Don't know how fast they're gonna go this time, but that gives you some knowledge of how it went before. We've got Burlap micarta handles and S90V on what is widely regarded as sort of the rugged Spyderco, if you will, or like the toughest Spyderco folder in the lineup. The main reason for that is twofold. One, you've got instead of like many Spydercos where you have this distal taper going all the way towards the tip where it gets thinner, 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 you've got full thickness spine on this knife further out towards the tip, so you have more lateral strength. You've also got the beefy compression lock, very tough and strong compression lock, and more rounded, slightly thicker handles than a lot of other Spyderco knives in the folding lineup. So it gives you that feel in the hand of being a bit more as well. And it's on a very successful and very useful pattern. Blade itself, a bit over 3.5 inches long. Sharpened edge is a bit less, of course, because you've got the signature finger choil type of treatment there. Spyderco's thing where they bridge the gap here around at the pivot to give you an extra finger groove for finer control up front and a little more distance from the edge when you're choked back. For me, it's most comfortable though, actually choked up in that handle area. That's what works well for me. The burlap adds a nice burly touch, as well as giving you a nice matte texture that just feels very good under the skin. S90V steel, lots of edge retention. Not the toughest steel in the range, if we're quite honest. The S30V of the standard model will be tougher, as in more resistant to chipping or cracking, that sort of thing. But the S90V here, less so, but with the thickness of the spine that counteracts it a bit. So you've still got a durable wedge of steel here, just with more edge retention than your S30V. 4-position pocket clip means you can carry it whichever way you like. Compression lock means you've got finger safe closing action, as well as flickable action, or you can do the Spidey flick, of course, as well. Lots of cool stuff you can do with it. These are coming in right now at 300 bucks, or $299, $95, or $99, one of the above. Check it out, as mentioned earlier, at the link below. Next up, we've got some more bigger knives. We've got this time from CIVIVI Sencut, the trio of sister brands here. I'm kind of gonna just mix them up instead of keeping them all together by brand here, but I'm gonna start with the Placoid from CIVIVI. And this is one of my more favorite kind of liner locking CIVIVI designs they've released in a while. It's got a little more personality to the shape, and sitting here right next to the Shaman, it feels like a beefier CIVIVI. It's not the same level of beefy that you would get with the Shaman. It's not a super thick blade, but it is a wide blade. You've got a, what do we want to call it, Thomas? Actually, the website's calling that a clip point blade, and I'm gonna call shenanigans because that's a convex drop to the edge right there. It's more of a drop point.
Drop toe.
or even, no, we're not going to call it a reverse tonto. No, it's not even a reverse tonto. Actually, it's closer to an original Osborne reverse tonto than a lot of things that are called reverse tontos these days.
Spade or drop.
It's a striking blade shape. It's got just enough alterations to a standard outline of a shape that makes it more interesting. The handle feels nice and good too. Full 4-finger grip for my slightly larger than average hands, in between the flipper tab and the beak at the back. The blade, while wide, is on the thinner side, so you can slice really, really nicely with it. These start at a very nice price for the base models, just under $54, and that will get you a G10 handle and a Sandvik 14C28N blade, 3.7 inches of blade almost. That's a really good price. Actually, wasn't expecting it to be quite that low. That's a lot of knife for the money. If you want to upgrade the materials a little bit here, you can get the Gaborsha wood with Damascus steel. And this is a 10 CR core Damascus that CIVIVI is using, and this is just under $80 right now. Construction-wise, you've got full-length liners, skeletonized to remove a bit of weight, liner lock, deep carry pocket clip, which is reversible on this knife, so either side is going to be taken care of, but the liner lock is of course a right-hand facing lock. And then for opening, you've got thumb studs in addition to the flipper tab, which combined with the strong detent and ball bearings in the pivot, give you great action. $54, man, for that base model. That's pretty crazy. We've also got big knives from Sencut. CIVIVI is kind of the middle child of the CIVIVI, or the CIVIVI Sencut range. The baby brother, if you will, is Sencut, and we've got another big knife here. This is the Draxor, coming in at $40. 3.7-inch 9CR steel blade here in sheep's foot profile. Thomas.
Shenanigans.
No, that's straight up sheep's foot, man. You got the completely straight edge. You got the abrupt drop to the tip. A little more of an interesting spine treatment going on than a basic sheep's foot. That's pretty cool. A 9CR, of course, is a pretty decent performance, roughly on the level of 440C or stuff like that. Handles are two-tone G10. This is the gray flavor right here. A black and a green, like olive green, are also available, and that olive green comes with a black blade. But I like the satin blade on this anyway. It's kind of got the same construction style as the Placoid we just looked at. Ball bearings, liners with liner lock, deep carry reversible pocket clip, and thumb stud and flipper. So take your pick in terms of the opening action. Both of these are flat ground knives with fairly thin blade stock, so you get slicing capability without the super thin edge that a hollow grind could provide. A little bit more strength out of it as a result. Very, very cool knife and very, very good price. And from the WE Knife brand, we've also got another big knife from all three of them today, and this is the Acuminal. These start at about $374 for a 4-inch Vanax bladed steel, so virtually rust proof and high performance on the edge retention as well. Those are, like I said, start about $374, titanium handles on those. This one is the Damasteel version, and as is typical when WE does a Damasteel version, there is a pretty hefty price premium on these compared to the standard version. It's about $697 for the Damasteel, and this is the Fafnir Damasteel. Performance-wise, Vanax is probably a little bit better in terms of your edge retention. Damasteel is no slouch, however. You've got CPM 154 levels of edge retention and toughness out of it because it is made with RWL 34, which is an equivalent of CPM 154. Also for that 374, oh sorry, I said they start at 374. They actually start at just under 350 for the all blacked out version. But for that $374 price point, you can also get a Chidori flamed titanium handle. So that's pretty cool. But what do we got here apart from now that we're listed all the specs out? Drop point blade, flat grind with a full length swedge, very elegant, flowing elegant titanium handles as well. No fasteners visible from the front. You only see the pivot hardware. So it's nice and clean. Backside, that's where you get the fasteners showing up. They're screwing through the back spacer and into the front scale to secure it, or the front handle to secure it. Then you've got a milled pocket clip and the frame lock, of course. Lock up on these, super, super tight. Ball bearings in the pivot, of course. Flipper only in this case. Action is quite good. Plenty of handle length and plenty of blade for bigger jobs. If you want to get classy and have a hard use, fancier knife, you can do a lot worse than any of these Acuminals right here. All right, next up from We Knife Company, we have the Tyro, which is a Snex design featuring the Super Lock. And you may remember the We Vision R from a couple of years ago featuring this lock and the same designer. While that knife was a bit more of a kind of a statement making piece in terms of the design, this one is a little more, for lack of a better word, basic. And I don't mean that with any sort of negative connotations. This is more of a distilled essence of standard pocket knife versus the Vision. We've got a sub 3-inch drop point blade, 20 CV steel on these. They start at about $230 with a titanium handle. There is a Damasteel version as well, coming in about $570 as well. A few different versions of different anodized and blade finishes on the handles and blade respectively on this knife. This is the plain Jane version, which I think is understated and classy a little bit. I mean, classy might not be the right word, but it's got a nice understated quality to it. Milled out sections of the handle give you that sort of paraframe type of look, but much more premium, of course. The Super Lock is quite friendly and quite fun and addictive to use. We have a milled pocket clip here, and actually, let me check the site. I believe this looks like it should be reversible because it's using this bolt on the other side. Let me just confirm. Our site says that, yep, it is indeed reversible, which is good. I was about to get a little annoyed because everything else is perfectly lefty friendly thanks to that lock and the blade cutout that works with either hand as well. So it's a good premium knife to recommend to just about anyone, and the price is not too bad for the level of what you're getting right here. Obviously, there's more affordable stuff on the range, on the market, but with this level of refinement and locking advances in the locking space, as well as high degrees of quality, it's not that bad at all. Feels really good. It actually allows you to get a pretty full feeling gorilla grip on this knife due to the shape. There is a section in here, but that's about only 3 fingers for me. I'm most often probably going to be choking up a little bit around that area, and there's of the pivot, and there's nothing in there preventing you from doing that. It feels like just the right amount of chunky. It's got that grip for the bigger tasks, but it's not super bulky. It's not a tank. It's still going to slice pretty well thanks to that blade geometry. Well done, Snex and We. And now the smallest knife on the table, went in the span of 2 knives from the biggest to the smallest, the CIVIVI Pyrus Stop Hell design. It's this tiny, ring finger shaped hawkbill blade. $40 for these. You got a 0.65-inch long blade of 14C28N with that hawkbill shape. Carbon fiber handles for that $40 point. You can actually get it for, I should have mentioned the base price, just under $30 for some G10 options, which is pretty cool. Got a broad wire pocket clip that is reversible, and to me, I think it's kind of a middle finger carry because well, let me see. Yeah, you could index any carry however you want. It is a double detent, so it's non-locking, which should mean you should be careful when you are cutting with it, but you've got, at least with that standard hold, try to decide how I like to hold it best. But you can keep your thumb right there if you're worried about it starting to close. Thumb's gonna keep it pushed down where it needs to be. But this is gonna be a really cool box opener, package opener. Not anything too big that you're gonna handle with this, but it's a really nice utility blade. That hook shape is gonna keep the point in your cut as you go through. It's just pretty darn neat. Next up, we have got the Hyperpulse from CIVIVI. These start at the $70 point for a 3.5-inch 14C28N blade combined with aluminum handles and a button lock. Very cool EDC friendly shape. For $89.25, you could get a Damascus bladed version of it. But yeah, it is just a nicely proportioned everyday carry. The 3.5-inch blade is large without being too big, and they've kept it on the narrower side this way as well, so it doesn't become too much, and yet it gives you a lot of edge to work with. The action is quite good. The thumb studs work. Actually, I think I like the thumb studs even better than the flipper in this case. Just the angle of it, whatever it may be, feels a little crisper, which is pretty cool. We have got a reversible clip, not quite deep carry, but it is folded over. And you've got flush head screws there to eliminate one extra snag point. You've got what I like that what they've done on the front of this actually. You've got the 3 main holes, of course, but you've got the pocket clip holes here at the back. And to keep those from looking too out of place, they gave you some holes here up at the front that aren't threaded. You're not going to put a clip up here, but they have a similar finish, so it kind of turns that those pocket clip screw holes into a decorative element carried through the rest of the knife. I appreciate that. It's pretty cool. Very nice. All right, moving on. We've got another button lock. This is from Petrified Fish. This is called the Trilobite, coming in at $44 and some change. Blade is just over 3 inches long. You've got Sandvik's 14C 28N steel, so the same stuff as on that Hyperpulse. And you've got this, say it. Say your thing, Thomas.
I'm gonna make you say it.
You've got that blade shape that Thomas refuses to say right now. Full flat grind on it, decently compromised between strength and slicing efficiency in terms of the thickness. It's not super thin, but it is plenty thin enough for slicing efficiency. The handles are G10, along with that G10 backspacer. Deep carry pocket clip inset in the handles with flush head screws, very nicely detailed. Nice flipping action. You're not really gonna thumb flick it, but let's try to reverse flick it. Oh yeah, ooh, that actually feels really good. For my hands, it's about a 3.5 finger grip back here, but you do have a finger choil here you could choke up and get some finer control over it, but my fingers are a little bit too large for it. I'm feeling the back of that edge. I don't like that too much, so your mileage may vary. But yeah, nice feeling, utility style, everyday carry knife. Some big strong cuts can be made with that. While you don't have a ton of length, at least for me, you've got enough thickness there where it feels girthy in the right senses of the word. Next up, we had a bunch of Knafs releases last week, but this one came in a little after we filmed. This is a new version of the Lander 3, echoing one of the versions of the Lander 2, with the dark gray stonewash blade and green canvas micarta handles. $135 for this knife. The blade itself is 2 3/4 of an inch long with S35 VN steel, saber height flat grind there, basic standard baseline of pocket knife iteration right here, similar to that Snex we looked at. Actually, that brings me to a good point. The one thing I appreciate about the Lander series here is, while it is not like a modern traditional in terms of taking old school patterns and just building it in a modern way or inspiring a modern build, this knife, while it isn't that, has the same kind of ethos of traditional pocket knives in my mind, in that it is it is made to just kind of work. It's made to be there and do its job without making a big fuss, without being too shouty, without being too over the top. It's just a good basic pocket knife. And actually, let me hold this this RoseCraft knife up here that we're gonna look at in a second. Look at the geometry at the tips of both of these blades. There's actually a lot of similarity there. It feels, while a modern knife, it feels like it has the spirit of practicalness that classic pocket knives have. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but that's the way they've always struck me. Anyway, struck me, something like that. You have a crossbar lock here. These are made by Kizer for Knafs, actually, which means you can adjust the tension of that crossbar lock. It has their clutch lock on the inside. So you've got that, but as I've always said, every time I mention that you can do that, I've never felt the need to do that. The action feels quite good for me right out of the box. So do it however you like. Deep carry pocket clip with reversibility. You've got a blockout plate on the front, or a filler plate, filler tab, whatever you want to call it, so you can see exactly how smooth that clip is when it is installed on the other side, nice and flush. And the handles themselves, you've got a matte texture on that micarta, gives you some good grip even when wet. And it's of a design, though, even though this is a small knife, if you need to get all 4 fingers on there and gorilla grip this small blade, you can do it, because there's nothing in the way of your fingers when you need to do that sort of thing. All right, let's look at that RoseCraft now, shall we? This is the Nolichucky Jack from RoseCraft with an actual stag handle here. This is a red deer stag, $80 for this knife. D2 steel, 3 inches long. Is that right? Check that. It's a hair over 3 inches. Look at it. But is that cool flared drop point shape with the long pull on the one side. And speaking of the pull, the action on these knives, the walkie-talkie, is quite good. They're doing such a good job with these, especially for the money, hands down. Very, very nice. Also available with a micarta handle at that vintage moss brown bone for just under $63 if you don't want to spend the cash for the stag version right here. Another new model this week from them is the Sweetwater Creek. Coming in at $60 with a red sandalwood handle and a 2.7-inch D2 lamb's foot blade. So it's basically your sheep's foot, but you've got a tapering spine instead of it being parallel to the straight edge. I like a good lamb's foot. If you know why, you know. Sandalwood handles with the cool spade inlay there on the front, and like the Nolichucky, nice snap from the blade as you're using it, along with that very satisfying half stop. Can't go wrong with these if you're a slip joint fan. If you're buying one for yourself or buying one for someone on your gift list, it is that time, and something classic and classy about classic slip joints that never goes unappreciated as a gift. Next up, Ocaso. We've got the Demco designed Solstice executive flipper. New versions of this with these cool titanium handles with the Entropic finish. Coming in about $243 for this black bladed version. And I think it's the same price for the satin blade. It might be a few bucks less. I'm not sure. I don't have it in front of me, sorry. But you got a 3.5-inch narrow blade, S35 VN steel on these. So you've got very nice edge retention and plenty of length for such a narrow handling or narrow pocketing knife. What I mean by that is does not take up a ton of room in your pocket at all, and yet gives you that full 3.5 inches of edge to work with. Deep carry pocket clip. It's actually mounted from the reverse side, wraps around the tail, and then keeps it nice and out of the way until you're ready to use the blade. And that's where they've integrated the logo marking or the branding on the front there. I think it's a classy way to do it. And you've also got the Ocaso logo on the pivot there. Classier. And then ball bearings in the pivot give you that good flipping action as well. Next up, we've got the Chaves TAK. These are back in stock, but now in integral form. Two blade shapes, about $315 for each. You've got the drop point and the tanto, both featuring compound, hollow, and flat grinds with the swedge. So there's not a huge difference, honestly, in terms of how you actually use them day to day or how you actually cut with stuff. The drop point does have a little bit more belly, but the tips are in practically the same spot right there. I'd probably choose the tanto because even though I'm more of a drop point guy, this is a gentle tanto and gives you a little more of an acute tip, which on a blade this small, I think that's a little bit nicer. I prefer that anyway. Neither is wrong, it's just a personal thing. 2 3/4-inch blade, M390 steel, very good edge retention on that. And the hollow grind keeps the edge itself, or the geometry behind the edge, nice and thin. But like the handle, which is strong, especially so with the integral construction here, you've got a little more thickness on the blade for that strength. And I mentioned integral, but at quick glance, it doesn't quite look like it because they've gone and milled these lines in here where you might normally expect to see a separation between the handles and a backspacer. But this is a single piece of titanium forming that handle right there. Comes with the skull pocket clip as well as a non-skull pocket clip that you could swap out if you don't want to be so macabre in your everyday carry. Smaller knife, 3-finger grip for me. Frame lock for security and flipper tab for opening, and it opens quite easily when you're ready to access that blade and cut. No problems whatsoever getting to that edge. Next up, we've got another integral to take a look at. That is the Kizer Brat for $89. And instead of titanium, you've actually got G10 for the integral material right here. Cool thing about integrals is, it's fewer things to go wrong. There's fewer screws to come loose and back out, fewer pieces to keep the handle itself secure. Just takes a little bit more on the manufacturing side and assembly side to put these together. That's cool. I don't have to worry about those. I just have to worry about using the knife. 3.5-inch blade on these with a drop point, 154 cm steel. Slightly on the thinner side, which is good with that almost full flat grind. Great daily slicer. Yeah, very nice. Black finish, green G10 handles. This is going to be a bit of a pocket shredder, I would say. This diamond texture is quite aggressive right there, so it is going to affect the fabric of your pants when you have this clipped in with that single position deep carry pocket clip. But if you are someone who really appreciates a highly textured handle in terms of what it gives you for grip as you're using the knife, you definitely feel that with this right here. So preferences will dictate whether that's a good thing or not to you. We've got the button lock here. Action is quite nice, works very well. Right hand only clip, however, so even though lefties can use that button, no problem, you are gonna have to deal with that right-sided clip if you are in fact left-handed, or even if you want to carry it on the left-hand side. Overall though, very cool design. Next button lock on the table today is from CJRB. This is the version for just under $48. Got a 2.6-inch blade of RPM 9 steel, which is a spray form version in the 9CR type of family. So you've got decent edge retention and a bit more toughness than your standard 9CR steel, which is nice, especially on a thinner blade like on this version, which as you can see, it's quite thin. With that full flat grind, it's going to slice very nicely for the size. We have got aluminum for the handles with G10 inlays on the front. This is green. There's another color, which is...
Did you say a different version?
There's versions of the version that you can pick your version that you like. There's a satin blade version of the version that that has a gray finished aluminum with a gray blue gray G10 inlay as well. Action, pretty nice. You can also front flip it if you like. And as you can see, that worked fairly well. And a reversible deep carry clip on this bad boy as well. And because of that very generous finger choil here, you can get a full 4-finger grip. And even with my slightly larger than average hands, I can do that, and slightly rounder than average fingers. I'm not kissing the back edge of that sharpened blade when I do choke up into that area for those cuts. That is definitely appreciated. You know what I haven't done? I haven't tried to reverse flick this yet. It's really small. This might be a little tricky for my hand size. Nah, shouldn't have said anything. Should have just done it. Next up from CJRB, we've got the Bellona. $53 for this knife, a 3.66-inch blade of that RPM 9 and a Tanto profile. You can get it in a satin blade with black G10 option, or this sandy G10 option with the black blade. Compound ground even. You've got hollow grind at the back and flat at the front, and plenty of length to slimness of the handle. This is not as slim as the Ocaso we looked at earlier, but definitely slim enough to not take up or not require a huge commitment from your pocket space to carry a full-sized blade here. You can get a lot of work done with a blade this size for sure. Deep carry pocket clip with reversibility, nice feeling G10, good action on that crossbar lock right there, which makes this a fully ambidextrous knife. Kudos, nicely done. Let me try a reverse flick. I haven't done that yet. It's a little harder to do with crossbar locks sometimes. Give it a little bit of wrist action, but it worked pretty well. Cool beans. Next up, another Tanto. This is the Boker Daily Knives AK1, their pocket fixed blade design, and it is one of the more affordable pocket fixed blade versions of the AK1, even though at $259 and some change, it is not a cheap pocket fixed blade. But Ultim handles and carbon fiber handles, actually the carbon fiber coming in just over $230 is the least expensive of the AK1s currently. Nope, that is not true at all. There's an N690 version for about $130. So there you go. But let me just make sure, I'm making sure my facts are correct here. These are the first versions to feature MagnaCut steel. So very tough, very stain resistant, and holds a nice edge as well. It's a good, very, very good steel for balancing those three pillars of knife steel performance quite nicely. This is the Tanto profile. The carbon fiber version has the reverse Tanto profile. And these come with a Kydex sheath, and they do include a pocket clip in the package. And just in case you want to, let me see if what other aftermarket stuff would work. A tech lock doesn't fit. A CIVIVI T-clip will work. And if you have one of the small tech locks. Oh, they are discontinued now, recently, sadly. But if you have one of those, that'll work too. But here you go, Ultim handles on that. Nice feeling grip in the hand. It's 3.5 fingers for me, but it's enough to feel like you can, shimmy up a little bit and get a full grip. Very precisely ground blade, straight edge on the Tanto, leading edge of the Tanto. So if you liked your Tanto to do chisel-y types of things, this will work. Whereas that Bellona we looked at earlier is not quite the same shtick right there. Very, very nice. And I believe, and I can confirm because Ultim is of course translucent, you can take these scales off and flip this little bail at the end around so that it sits flush on the back if you'd prefer not to have that going on. There you go. Made in Germany, of course, I should mention. Very cool. Last but not least, we got 2 autos to finish things out. New versions of the Wraith from Heretic. This is the V4 iteration of the Wraith. These are starting around the $278 mark. 3 3/4 inch MagnaCut blade. Very cool clip point, kind of almost buoy-like shape on this one with a slight gold hint to the blade. Offsets the green aluminum nicely. You've got the same type of anodized color for the accenting hardware, which I think is really nice, and rubber grip inserts for extra traction as well. Definitely a full-size knife. I've got plenty of handle real estate on there. I've got even more than I strictly need, which is nice. And yeah, it's tactical, but this is a nice, versatile, usable everyday shape, I would say. It's not so thick or chunky that it would preclude that sort of use for many folks. The action is great. I mean, it's another one of those that really moves the rest of your arm when it hits, which is very satisfying. You've got 2 retention points, or 2 pressure points on the clip there to give you extra retention in the pocket. Nice features like tapering back towards the end, so it removes a little bit of bulk and weight there, but not so much that it feels kind of shrimpy at the end, even though it is a minimizing handle as you get towards the back. Overall, just real nice. You could choke up really easily, get a really full push grip or a push cut on that type of grip. Yeah, it's just super nice. What can I say? Actually, this is pretty cool. I just noticed the clip construction, or the clip attachment here. It's a single screw, sits in a pocket in the aluminum, and it has a little hook that anchors right there under or in the path of the lanyard hole there. And you've got a filler tab at the back or on the other side that does the same thing. Pretty cool. And last but not least, we've got one more auto. This is a collaboration between ADV and Backup Tactical, who make firearm accessories and parts. This is a new OTF design called the Stinger. $340 for this one right here. You've got a just over 3.5 inch S35 VN blade with a double edge, and look how wide or broad that blade is in the handle. I mean, most OTFs, you're gonna see a little more shrinkage there on the what's coming out, but this is, it feels like you're getting more out of it. Like, it feels full width in a nice way. The handles are aluminum. This one is the flat dark earth. You've got, actually like that Heretic, you've got 2 retention points on the clip. This is a milled clip doing that, which I don't think I've seen that done before. They may not be the first ones to have ever done it, but it's the first time I have seen that. And then you of course have got the Zamboni roller there at the front of the clip to give you that primary retention point. That clip itself is reversible. You've got a strong tail piece here at the back with a ball bearing for glass breaking. And because the slide is, or the switch is on the side right here, or cover side, yeah, side mounted switch, this is a fully ambidextrous knife, of course. And something I've also never seen on an OTF, you've got thumb scallops up here, which means you could get up there and do, I guess, some of those like fighting grips. On a knife like this, I think with that sort of feature, I think of like the old V42 stilettos that had the thumb pad. You could do those types of grips on. You could do that here if you wish. I should also mention Tanto profile, also available in addition to this double edge. All of it feels very, very good. Well, that's all we've got today, folks. As mentioned, if you want to get your hands on any of these, check out the links in the description. Those will take you to KnifeCenter.com. Where in addition to our new Sezzle payment options, don't forget as well about our long-running Knife Rewards program, because whether you're buying for yourself or someone else this time of year, you might as well get some free money to spend on a future purchase. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. That's Thomas behind the camera. We are signing off. See you next time.